Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make organic house like Tourist and Kiasmos. You guys have been requesting this one for a minute. As usual, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, literally every single thing from this video is available at the top of the description on my Bandcamp for just $5. Definitely go grab that if you guys want to support me. It helps keep me going tremendously. And yeah, thank you so much for the support, guys, and let's dive in. So this is the loop that you heard in the intro. We're on 122 BPM, and the first thing that we have up here is the piano. Now, these chords might seem kind of complicated, but it's basically just walking up, like, pretty much the scale here. Like, okay, so if you look at this, we're in the key of A sharp minor. So all this is it's F sharp major, A sharp minor, C sharp major, D sharp minor. This F minor, F sharp major, G sharp major, A sharp minor, and then yeah, so you can see actually like it's actually the same chord twice in there. And basically, yeah, so it's not that hard to actually write this progression if you know this key or you know whichever key you're working in. You know, you're kind of just walking up the scale, right? Now, this isn't every single track in this style, but it's just this general feel where it's kind of like a constantly moving chord progression. Like, that was something that I think I haven't really covered on here before, is like, you know, I think something about this style of music is obviously it's very melodic, and it's very melodic in kind of like a modern, almost like pop sense, honestly. Like, these chords are the exact same chords you would use to write like a pop song, but it's just taking it that extra step where it's like, rather than just making it like a nice 4-bar loop or making it super perfectly kind of resolving, it can just keep morphing and evolving and going into new places that are still in the same chord progression or in the same key. And I think that's the idea behind this progression. But yeah, so then the other thing here is that these are just basic triads, right? Just like root note, third, fifth. Very basic 3-note chords. But what we've done is we've taken, as you can see, these middle notes, the thirds, and put them up an octave. And that just kind of gives you a more interesting feel. I think it's going to make the piano a little bit more modern sounding too. And if you're having a hard time getting your pianos to sound proper, that's going to make a big difference, even if you're just using like the Ableton grand piano. And then for the sound, so yeah, it's just this little piano sample. I actually have, you can ignore that second high pass filter on there. And then I have a compressor just side chaining it to the kick. Then we have the lead. So this might seem like a really crazy lead when you listen to it on its own, and it's definitely a little bit challenging to make something like this, but if you look at this, check it out. So if you notice, it's the same notes as the piano. So it's actually just following the chord progression, right? And then all it's doing is these top notes. So the root notes, those are just the root notes of the chords, right? So just literally everything you see here. The top notes are just these thirds here. These same ones that are... Yeah, you can see the exact same notes that are the top notes for the piano. So the way you can write a lead like this is just start with that chord progression, right? Like, write out like a nice chord progression like this, which if you know the scale and you kind of understand how this stuff works, or if you're just looking at a guide for it online, this isn't going to be that hard, right? But then it's just taking that and then combining that with like an interesting rhythm. And the key to this was that I actually wrote it to the drum loop, right? Like, we had like this stuff going. And then it's just like putting these thirds up top and the root notes down here in the perfect spot. You know, and that really isn't anything other than just like very careful placement. Like there's no like magical plugin that's doing this. It's not even really the synth sound that much, you know. It's just very well placed notes, I think. Like, and just really like, really the key to that just comes from like listening to it, right? Like just sort of like, you know, putting notes in different places and seeing where it's gonna fit better. Like for example, if I move this one, you can see that might even be a cooler groove. Or maybe we move it to here. You know, and then you're just like really taking your time and listening and moving each note left and right by just like 16th notes until you find the right placement. And it's just going to, you'll know, like it's just like creating that groove, like that perfect, like, where it always feels like it's kind of following itself. But the actual notes, again, are just going to be the root note and the thirds for these chords. And then that's what makes it so effective, is the way that you're taking that like harmony between the root note and the third, and how that's always just going to sound so nice and melodic and harmonious, and then just like combining that with a really catchy rhythm. I think that's really what's happening here. And then for the sound, this is made with operator. And so it's two oscillators. You can see, yeah, just two sine waves here doing a bit of FM. That's just what the oscillators sound like on their own. And then I put those into a bandpass filter. Again, without it. And with it. So obviously the bandpass is what gives it this sound. And there's three things happening here with the bandpass filter that are making this happen. Really like four, actually, which I'll explain in a sec. So, the first thing is the envelope. You can see the envelope is very short. And that's what's creating that like sort of pluck on the start of the sound, right? As soon as I make that longer, see, it kind of goes back to what the original sound sounded like. So it's the really fast filter envelope. That's the first thing. Then I have this shaper here. And so that's kind of adding, even though it's on 0, it still adds distortion. Here's without it. You can see it's too pristine, right? This gives it that more organic, kind of warm character. And then the third thing that's happening here is this frequency to key here. And all that is key tracking, meaning the lower the note is, the more closed the filter will be. The higher the note is, the more open the filter will be. And this creates a very dynamic pattern when you're jumping across different octaves like this, right? How it's going like that. If we turn off the key tracking, see, it's not that interesting because each note has the exact same timbre. But when we put the key tracking on, now each note has a slightly different feel to it. And this is part of getting the more organic sound, is having more little things that not just we're automating to make movement happen on the sound, but just things that are happening inside of the sound to make it be more organic, right? Like, that's ultimately going to sound way better than any automation that you could ever do. And then the last thing, the fourth thing that's technically making it sound the way it does, is also just where you put the filter frequency and resonance. These are really important, because if you use too little resonance, so you don't really get that same sound, and too much, that's kind of cool too, but it's not quite the same sound. And then also where we put the filter frequency, because if I put it in the wrong spot, it's just going to be too bassy. So you really want to just take your time and dial the filter in on this one. But then after that, we just have a bit of echo and reverb, a little drum bus to fatten it up, a high pass filter, and then it's just being sidechained to the kick. And that's it for the lead. Then we have this little grain stab. And you can hear, yeah, that's just coming in. What this is it's actually just this piano playing sample. I'll play it for you. Like a nice live jazzy sample. And then I'm putting it into the Granular Synth here, which, if you don't know what Granular Synthesis is, essentially it's where you take a sample and it's playing back a sample, just the way like a sampler would, except a sampler plays a sample from start to finish, or finish to start, however you said it. This is jumping all around the sample. So you're getting all these different grains from the sample being pulled out. And then all we gotta do to get different flavors out of this is we can either automate or just turn up the spray knob. And see, that's telling it like how much you want it to jump around the sample. So it's kind of an interesting way of creating little melodic stuff like this, right? And then the thing is, usually people use this for like pads and stuff, but here I've got it just playing these little nice like stabs, so you just get that. So yeah, it fits in there really nicely, I think. And then this is just going through a little bit of reverb. It's being sidechained to the kick, and then I just have a high pass filter. Then we have this pad. Which when I play it on its own sounds a little wild, but yeah, you can hear how that's fitting into the track when we play it with the piano. So this is essentially like a counter melody for the chord progression, right? It's meant to be working against that, playing something slightly different, but to kind of add to it, not just take away from it. So these are all just notes in that A sharp minor scale. Like I said, that's the key that we're in. You know, it's just a matter of putting together different notes until you find ones that are going to fit really well over the chords. And then for the sound, this is made with analog, so it's actually 2 square waves here. You can see I've got, yeah, this one, and then this one I have a bit of LFO on the pulse width. This one has an LFO on the pulse width as well. And then we have a low pass filter, which just has a bit of an LFO, as well as some key tracking, and then an envelope on that as well. So it's just got lots of movement. The amp envelope is like that, and then we just have some vibrato and unison. And then I have a bit of echo, a bit of reverb, a drum bus to fatten this up. This is being sidechained to the kick, and then just a high pass filter. And that's it for the pad. And then the last synth here is this bass. Now this bass is really just following the lead, right? I just took the lead MIDI. And then you can see it's just playing the low notes from that. Like literally I just deleted all these top notes up here. And then you get this. And this makes it a lot more cohesive, I think, in the track versus if I just made like some long held out bass here. Because this is going to make it so it's like multiple instruments kind of creating that same groove. And this one's really simple. You can see it's just a square wave with a low pass filter on it. A little bit of an envelope, and then it's being sidechained to the kick. But you really don't need much else, because it's just like a nice, fat, powerful bass. And as long as you mix that at the right level in the track, it's going to shine through. Then we have the kick, which is completely dry. Yeah, you can see the only effect on here actually is just the utility, which is converting it to mono. And I wanted to do this to show you that, like, well, for one, you need your kick to be in mono, so we got to have that, because this sample had a little bit of stereo stuff. But I wanted to show you that it's not about, like, making your kick, like, super, super crunchy or compressed or anything with this style, right? You just want a good kick that's going to kind of shine through. This one's more like an 808 style kick. You know, and then you put that in the mix at the right level, and you don't need all this extra, like, saturation and compression, especially with a style like this, where it's not like, you know, it's not like techno where you want it to hit so hard and be smashing through the mix. And we have this little hi-hat, which if I play it with the main one, you can hear. So that's just adding a nice groove in there. I'm just playing with the different pitches of the notes. We have some Foley percussion in there as well. You can hear that, like this layer and that last shaker, or that last hi-hat. You know, they seem quiet, but then you hear them in the mix because they're kind of filling in a range that everything else isn't. And to make this, I just chopped up some Foley sounds that I had. And then I have an LFO here with a 16, or a filter with an LFO that's on 16th notes. So it's very like kind of giving it a little bit more rhythm. We have a high pass filter and then it's being side changed to the kick. Then we have this live shaker. You know, kind of giving us a nice live organic element, as well as this one, which is just in there on the upbeats. We have these claps. You can see you put them together and you get like a I have one of them happening a little bit before the other as well with the track delay. And if you hear that with the kick, you can see it's like right, that's what we're going for. And then finally we just have a bit of vinyl noise. Pretty simple, but that's something you just want to put at the end to give it all kind of a bit more texture and kind of an overall feel. And yeah. So that was going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets. Every single thing from this video is available right at the top of the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Thank you so much to everybody who goes and grabs it on Bandcamp or on Patreon. You guys really help keep me going. Yeah, I really appreciate all the support. You know, every sale really helps. It's just $5. But you get an awesome project file. Plus, it's going to help keep me going so I can keep bringing you guys new videos like this every single day. And yeah, thank you for the support, everybody. And I will see you tomorrow with another video.